the Republic of Malta. Situated across the island nation's 122 square miles, sit the remains of 7 megalithic sites. These include the 2 temples of Gigantia, Hajarim, Emnidra, Tarshin, Tahajrat, and Skorba. These marvels of ancient construction were all built with the same type of Maltese limestone, which was extracted from local quarries.
The fact that they were moving around these multi-ton blocks, building these temples, and actually, when you look at them, moving the blocks within very, very narrow confines. Okay, it's one thing to move a block out in the open, that's multi-ton, but to then place it systematically and very carefully next to another one, next to another one, next to another one, to form these beautiful temple structures, that's a real engineering feat.
While there are some researchers who believe that Malta's megalithic temples could be as much as 12,000 years old, mainstream scholars believe they were created no earlier than 3600 BC, during what is known as the Neolithic Age. And they also theorize that the massive structures were built by a human culture that used only primitive stone tools.
Archaeology suggests at the time, we barely invented the wheel, we barely had tools, there was no known language, and we had no writing. Well, let's step back for a moment and think about this. From an evolutionary and technology perspective, that makes no sense because you begin with simple, you continue bigger, bigger, and then biggest. But you start small. What we have in the case of the Maltese structures is that the biggest are the oldest. So that makes 0 sense from a logical perspective because there was no evolution in technology. The archaeologists, they agree with this.
To construct similar temple after similar temple with the same material without evidence of writing shows a high degree of communication. And we find terracotta models, in fact, of temples. And archaeologists have suggested perhaps that this is an early architect's rendering. This is more evidence of the high level of thought and ability that went into the construction of these temples.
No written records have ever been discovered to explain who built the megalithic temples in Malta. However, local traditions of the Maltese people have offered a stunning possibility. They claim that the massive structures were built by a race of giant beings who came to Earth from the stars.
There is a story that a meteorite came down from the heavens and turned into a goddess, a giant named Sansuna. And the locals, of course, were terrified of this giant. But at a place called Gigantia, she started building a temple and moved stones much larger than any human could ever move and assembled this structure that was so massive. It remains to this day still a place of mystery, still a giant's construction.
When you see these cyclopean stones, some of them weighing as much as 50 tons, you can appreciate why we have the story of this giantess Sansuna.
The local legends of Sansuna may sound incredible to some. However, in the 17th century, a Maltese nobleman named Gianfrancesco Abella claimed to have found forensic evidence that these legends may have been based in fact.
In the early 1600s, Gianfrancesco Abella was living on the island of Malta, and he actually wrote about the fact that giants were involved in the construction of these sites. One of the reasons he wrote this is because he said he found bones, skulls, and even giant teeth all across the island. And there were other reports of them coming forth at this time.